Veins are blood vessels that carry blood from the capillaries back to the heart. The blood carries oxygen and nutrients through the capillaries to the tissues and, filled with carbon dioxide and waste products, returns to the heart through the veins. For the upper body veins, this is possible because the walls of the veins are stretchable and the pressure in them is less than in the right atrium, which performs the task of suction. The walls of the veins are three-layered, comprising different tissues. The very thin inner layer consists of simple cells on an elastic membrane of connective tissue. The middle layer is more solid and consists of elastic and muscular tissue. The outer layer consists of a thin layer of loose and mobile connective tissue, through which the lower layers of the venous sheath are fed and through which the veins are attached to the surrounding tissues. The dermis is the middle layer of the skin, consisting of cells and threads of connective tissue. The dermis contains hair follicles, nerves, blood vessels, sebaceous and sweat-producing glands. The top layer, the hairy epidermis, consists of dead keratin-rich cells. The dermis contains all the glands and receptors that provide the basic and sensory functions of the skin. The dermis below the epidermis is separated from it by a thick basal membrane with numerous folds. They resemble conical elevations towards the epidermis. The dermal papillae are located on the epidermis elevations, whose projections, which are also intermaxillary ridges, go into the dermis. This increases the surface area between the two layers, which is very important because the epidermal cells depend on blood vessels, which only reach the dermis. The epidermis is the layer of skin that is in direct contact with the external environment and is about half a millimeter thick in different parts of the body. The waterproof epidermis forms the top layer, underneath it lies the dermis. The epidermis has to withstand washing, stretching, bumps and scratches, so it is constantly renewed. Old cells are exfoliated and replaced by new ones. This process is the basis for the healing of cuts. The epidermis is an epithelial tissue composed of densely packed keratin containing cells that lack intercellular elements. Epidermal cells are arranged in such a way that they form 4 or 5 layers, depending on the skin area. The cells of the basal layer are constantly dividing and pushing out the cells of the upper layers, taking their place as they move through the epidermal layers. They change and lose viability, reaching the stratum corneum, from which they separate after some time. Hair is an epithelial filamentous appendage of the skin that develops from epidermal cells. The flexible hair shaft consists mainly of keratin-rich cells and grows from the hair follicles sitting in the epidermis. As the hair grows, the hair shaft cells die off and gradually wear away. The main function of hair on the skin is protective and thermoregulatory. Each hair has a root and a stem. The hair root is located in the thickness of the skin and ends in a thickened part, the hair follicle. The hair root is located in the hair follicle, where the sebaceous gland duct opens. The smooth muscle that lifts the hair is connected to the root. This muscle, when contracted, can lift the hair, form gooseflesh on the skin, and squeeze out the secret of the sebaceous gland. Hair grows in the hair follicle by dividing cells, which are very quickly filled with the fibrous protein keratin, and then die, continuing to make up the fiber trunk, which is pushed outward by new cells and rises above the skin. The hair follicle functions cyclically. The growth phase is followed by the resting phase. During the growth phase, new cells form in the root of the hair, pushing the shaft upward, and the hair lengthens. A rest period follows, after which growth resumes. Scalp hair can grow for 6 years before the follicle goes into its resting phase. The hair follicle contains a follicular papilla, where the blood vessels that feed the hair and nerve endings penetrate. The deepest part of the hair follicle is the growing root element, which consists of epithelial cells. Melanocytes are also present in the growing root, producing pigment, the number of cells, and the degree of activity which determines the color of each person's hair. Hypodermis is the deepest layer of skin, which varies in depth in different parts of the body and mainly consists of fatty tissue, which is the basis of the body's energy reserve and thermal insulator. The main functions of the hypodermis are shaping, cushioning, and thermoregulation. It is also an energy depot and blood depot in the body. In addition, the hypodermis is involved in fat metabolism. Hypoderm is built of loose connective tissue and forms subcutaneous cellular spaces in which there are fat accumulations, end sections of sweat glands, vessels, nerves, and lymph nodes. The cells bounded by fibrous bands are filled with fatty tissue forming fatty deposits. A nerve is a part of the nervous system that transmits signals between the brain, spinal cord and organs. All nerves in the human body form the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system consists of nerves coming from the brain and spinal cord. They are responsible for the transfer of impulses from the organs and commands from the nerve centers to control the activities of the whole body. The nerve itself consists of many nerve fibers, axons or extensions of neurons, neuroglia cells and other connections responsible for their protection and maintenance of activity. The nerve filaments are grouped into bundles covered by connective tissue. This tissue includes various ligaments, which are part of the nerve. The ligaments are covered by an outer sheath called the epineurium. Apart from the palms and feet, the entire surface of the skin has sebaceous glands, the secret of which lubricates and softens the skin and hair. Fat has a protective function. It mixes with exfoliated cells and forms an acid fatty shell, which, among other things, prevents the multiplication of microbes on the skin. When ambient temperatures are low, sebum secretion increases, which causes the fat to clog the sweat pores, preventing perspiration. Thus, the body temperature increases. From the microscope, the sebaceous glands have the appearance of purple formations. The body of the glands is located in the dermis. Their discharge ducts also open into the funnels of the hair follicles. The skin contains a large number of sweat glands. They are everywhere, from the scalp to the palms of your hands and feet. Sweat production increases when body temperature rises. An adult has about 2.5 million sweat glands. They carry out excretory and thermoregulatory functions and give the body a distinctive scent. Sweat glands are tubular glands. Each gland consists of a body and a duct that opens on the skin. The distinction is made between eccrine and apocrine glands according to the mode of secretion. Eccrine, are small sweat glands, are distributed in the skin almost everywhere. They secrete a watery secretion, sweat, the total amount of which reaches 0.5 liters per day in normal conditions, and with heavy physical work, up to 10 liters. Apocrine, are large sweat glands, are associated with hair follicles. The muscle that lifts the hair is woven into the hair pouch on one side and into the papillary layer of the dermis on the other. It consists of smooth muscle cells. It is absent or poorly developed in bristle and down hair, mustache hair, beard hair, and armpit hair.